Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the opportunity. So I'm going to speak about COVID-19 and internal migration in Sri Lanka. Just to give a brief, I know we all know what is internal migration. It's basically the geographic or spatial mobility for permanent or semi-permanent purposes within the country boundary, geographic boundary. So why do people migrate? I think this was also touched up by our previous speaker. There are various reasons. Mostly it's often due to disparities in income or access to public services like health or education or other public services. And then also there are certain people who want to be with their own network or circle of people, so they self-select into staying in or moving to certain areas. And then some people are forced to move or internally migrate due to environmental degradation or other climate change disasters or armed conflict situations like that. So often when people move, they try to move to a place which is better socio-economically than where they are. So often this migration happens from rural areas to urban areas. So connecting this internal migration and urbanization, we have two specific SDGs, SDG 10 and SDG 11. So SDG 10 focuses on inequalities within and among countries. So we are looking at inequalities within countries. So to address these, there are various targets and indicators to reduce income inequality or to ensure equal opportunities and to ensure that migration processes are well managed. And then when somebody wants to move, as I said, often they move to a city. So what happens when a city will have to be able to make these incoming migrants also inclusive in their plans. So there is affordable and safe housing, affordable transportation and other sorts of activities. So these two SDG goals try to marry these internal migration and urbanization in a nice way. So let us look at how this inequality and internal migration pans out in Sri Lanka. So when you look at this table, you can see in terms of average monthly household income, the Sri Lankan average is about 62,000 rupees a month for a household. But in Colombo, one of the key areas that receives internal migrants, it's very high, it's about over 104,000. And similarly, another district in the Western Province that receives a lot of internal migrants is Gampaha. There also, it is much higher than the Sri Lankan average. And when you look at employment opportunities, it is indicated by the unemployment rate, when the country average was about 4.8% in 2019. Colombo and Gampaha had lower unemployment rates, indicating people had more employment opportunities. And in terms of monthly salaries also, Colombo and Gampaha is much higher than the average of this country. So among other reasons, these disparities also contribute to people towards moving to cities or urban areas. So this is one of the reasons, among many others, that contributes to higher population density in the Western Province. And when you look at the Sri Lankan average, which is about 325 persons per square kilometer, in Colombo, it's almost tenfold. So you can see how much people are living in close proximity in Colombo district alone. So if you look at this graph on this side, you can see this is internal migration province-wise. Bottom is the Western Province. So there are different types of internal migrants. Some people have come long time ago, like 10 years or more. So such internal migrants, there's a huge proportion or huge share in the Western Province, as shown in the green, very long bar. And then when it comes to 5 to 9 year long residents also, the Western Province is among the is the highest. Similarly, relatively shorter term migrants, less than 5 years, is also Western Province. So Western Province attracts a lot of internal migrants. So in the 2012 census, it shows that about over 13% of the total population in Sri Lanka have moved in across provincial borders. And when it comes to inter-district migration, 1 in every 5 persons would have crossed the district border as an internal migrant. So what are the reasons that people migrate? So the 2012 census shows that the top reasons why people migrate include marriage, employment, and then accompanying family members. So how does it work out? Sometimes a person might migrate as an individual, leaving the family behind. And then there are some people who will plan to stay for a longer time, who can afford to bring the whole family. So they might move. One person might get a job in the city, so he might migrate. And the family might come along as tied migrants, and later on they will also find education opportunities or employment opportunities within the city. So there are different types. So when it comes to these individual migrants, it is more likely that they will visit their home area once a week or once a month. But when it is a family migration, there is less likelihood to be such regular going back and forth, because the whole family might have moved here. And so again, the 2011 census data shows that Colombo and Gampa district received a lot of migrants for the purpose of employment. Specifically in Colombo, 43% of the internal migrants coming into the district were for employment purposes. So that is to bridge this disparity in terms of employment opportunities or income that they would face if they were staying back in their home areas. And then in addition to these internal migrants, there is another key component that contributes to the city community or the urban community. These are daily commuters. So before the pandemic, certain estimates show that about over 1 million commuters enter the Colombo city on a daily average day. And it is said that about 160,000 vehicles bring them in. So this chart over here shows that how commuters enter the city, the Colombo city area from various key inward roads. So it is important to understand, so it is not only internal migrants and the natives who are living in Sri Lanka, in the Colombo city, but there are also commuters who are making a big contribution to the city activity or the vibrancy of the city. So let's move and look at what happened during the pandemic. So during the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, we saw that along March of 2020, an all-island curfew was imposed. And then there were very strict travel bans across districts. It was not allowed. So this resulted in many internal migrants and some commuters being stranded in the city. So newspaper reports say that about over 50,000 were stranded in the Western province. So some of the measures that were adopted were to, a helpline was introduced so that people who were stranded could call this helpline and report their situation so that certain measures could be taken to relocate them or send them back to their home areas. So some of these efforts included state organized public transport with the support of the police stations to send these stranded internal migrants to their home areas. So what happened is it was rather methodical. So before their departure, they had to undergo a pre-departure medical assessment, and often this centralized transportation coordinated by the police would take them to their local police area, and the local police station would take them the last mile to their home. And once they reach home, they were supposed to do a 14-day quarantine so that the native population in the home area were less at risk because of this internal migrant coming back home. And then in the third wave, what we are going through now, instead of curfews, it was called travel restrictions. So the travel restrictions were mainly, this change in terminology was mainly to ensure that there was some capacity for the economy to still continue, but to contain the spread of the pandemic also. So these travel restrictions involved strict controls in terms of movement across countries, districts, but still, there were many people struggling and very interested to come into the city, obviously for economic purposes or other social requirements or the humanitarian requirements. So in a survey done in June last month, it was seen that within a period of 3 hours, over 67,000 vehicles entered the Colombo city limits. So there were various reasons these were coming in. So some were for health sector requirements and the food delivery and humanitarian reasons, and some of them were also for employment to report to work. So this shows how connected the city, the main cities in Sri Lanka, is with the outer areas in terms of daily commuting also. So to address some of these issues, there were huge traffic jams created by these inward vehicles and the stringent checking of them. So one of the measures adopted was a requirement to carry a formal letter or a formal notification by the employer saying that this employee's services are required at their work site, so please allow him to cross the border. But still, there were many people traveling with all sorts of this approval, so there were still heavy traffic jams because all had to be checked meticulously. So then there were other measures introduced where a sticker was introduced to identify vehicles that were screened once so that they were not stopped at multiple locations. Still there were struggles trying to manage the traffic jams and the delays associated. So if you bring in all or compile all these issues together, which internal migrants faced during the pandemic, one is the critical issue is the employment related issues. So we know now it's mostly working from home. I'm also working from home today, but not everybody can work from home. Not all type of jobs can be done from home, especially when it comes to informal workers or daily paid workers. It is very difficult for them to work from home or earn their income if they work from home. So, and then it was difficult for those who were not living in the city or those who were previously living in the city but moved back to their hometown because of this pandemic situation to now report to work. But on the other hand, the internal migrants who decided to stay back within the city have a leg up in terms of reporting to work. And then, as I said, there were commuting issues. And then another issue is the limitations in the public transportation service in the city, where people found it difficult to maintain social distancing if they were commuting from outside to the city or even within the city. So there was a risk of catching the virus. And then also there were other residency issues, because now some internal migrants who were earlier residing within the city or within Colombo district areas could not afford to pay for their accommodation without an employment going on. So then they would have gone back, given up their residence space, their accommodation, and gone back to their hometown. And then they got this issue of if they were called, now in most places, people are supposed to work on a roster basis, come to report to work for 2 to 3 days or something like that. So when they don't have an accommodation in the city area, now this sort of internal migrants find it difficult. How am I to pay for an accommodation for 2 to 3 days a week and then go back home? And then there's all sorts of issues related to that. And then also there's the difficulty of proving residency, because to access certain services like the vaccination or social support, one needs to show their proof of residency within the city to access the city supported services. So if you're not having a formal contract, if you don't have utility bills coming to your name, it was difficult to address these. And then another issue that was faced by internal migrants is the issue of going back or returning to their home areas. One was the issue of finding transportation to go back. The other was the risk of spreading the pandemic once they go back. They kind of not very diligent in terms of their quarantine measures or limiting their movement in the home areas. And then also there was an element of social stigma where people, the home area people were kind of reluctant to move around with them, or were suspicious that they might bring in the virus to the area. So there was an element of social stigma also. So there were certain solutions that were provided. So in terms of employment, certain sectors were identified that could continue their operation despite these travel restrictions or curfews. One was the apparel industry, especially in the free trade zone. They were given special permits to continue their production, and then there were these employers resorted to special transportation arrangements to ensure that their workers would safely move from their home to the workplace. And then another industry that was allowed was the construction sector to continue operations. And mostly these construction workers were in their campsites, so they were asked to stay within those sites and continue the activities. And then in terms of access to vaccination, the alternative measures were introduced to accept proof of residency documents. So if somebody was informally living in a house and there was no formal contract, there were instances where the letter of consent or letter of letter by the owner of the residence telling that this person is living or is boarded at my house, and that was accepted as proof of residency. And then certain solutions not yet properly taken but are very important is collect up-to-date data on internal migrants as well as commuters, because when it comes to providing solutions, it is very critical to understand who is in the city, who are permanent dwellers, who are internal migrants, who are commuters. So that there is a severe data deficit in terms of that. And then most of these employment related issues and commuting issues still remain to be solved. And in terms of the way forward, I think there are a few critical things that needs to be taken into account. One is that cities thrive because it's made up of this heterogeneous group of people. Some are natives, some are more permanent internal migrants, some are semi-permanent internal migrants, and then there are daily commuters also contributing heavily to the city's economy and its continuation. And then when it comes to internal migrants, their movement from their home areas to the cities or urban areas is a key livelihood strategy. So when these support mechanisms are developed, it is critical to understand this livelihood need that they migrate, make this migration decision and address that when pandemic related solutions are provided, because this economic shock created by the pandemic is creating a huge dent on their livelihoods. And then it is also important to understand that even though the internal migrants might live in the city, the issues or the challenges they face are somewhat drastically different from what a native in the city would face. So we have to understand these nuances, the characteristics of these issues to address them properly. So finally, all future activities and relief measures under this new normal situation that we are all in, and also going beyond this new normal in the general development framework also, have to be sensitive about this heterogeneity of these city communities. It's not one size fits all solution that can be done to these cities, because there are different types of people that make up the city. So it's very important to understand these internal migrants specific issues to address them successfully. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.